Food has never just been about sustenance for me. It's possibly the best way to connect with people and culture.
We have with us Mr. Vishal Sinha, the founder of We the Chefs.
If you're taking new challenges, enjoy it. Don't complain about it. We sort of celebrating incredible stories of the favorite food or the food which you love and connecting people with good food. Engage yourself in something which gives you a purpose.
One decision you made that you were very proud of.
We were in Tokyo when the big earthquake happened. I had to send the family away to Hong Kong. And my boss kept on telling me that you move out of Tokyo. For me, it was a very hard decision to stay back in Tokyo and be with the team. And I do remember one of my bosses actually saying that you wouldn't be a martyr by doing this. For the team, it's home, right? You are still an alien, you need to be out. I would not have been able to go out of Japan and come back when things were fine.
Welcome to Unplanned Life with me, Ambika Singh Kahma. Today our guest is someone who embarked on an entrepreneurial journey after nearly 3 decades of corporate success. He wanted to move out of his comfort zone. We have with us Mr. Vishal Sinha, the founder of We the Chefs, which is an aggregator of home chefs. What he's really trying to do is connect people with good food. Thank you so much, Vishal, for joining us today. So, Vishal, nearly 3 years after corporate success, what really sparked that transition to get into this entrepreneurial journey? Was it the thirst for, just getting into a new challenge? And what really drove that decision?
I think the key thing for me, Ambika, has always been getting out of your comfort zone, right? 3 decades of working in the corporate, moving from one place to the other. I've always believed in stretching myself because I personally feel the best comes out of you is when you actually get out of your comfort zone. And for me, that has been something which has driven my entire career. Whether you talk about moving from a Chennai to a Dubai to a Hong Kong to a Shanghai to London or to Tokyo, they were all getting out of comfort zone and doing things which are very different. And I'm extremely proud of the fact that I have done this because at one point of time, I was the youngest general manager on the entire British Airways network, right? When I was managing Japan and Korea, and I managed that for 9 years. So it's been something which has been very interesting. How this entire transition happened, I would probably say it was just about the bits in terms of wanting to do something different, wanting to be able to create something. We were just getting out of COVID at that point of time. I wanted to do something different. And food has never just been about sustenance for me. It's been a journey, an adventure. It's possibly the best way to connect with people and culture. And for me, that was something which was really important. So we created this whole platform of We the Chefs, where we sort of celebrating incredible stories of the favorite food or the food which you love and connecting people with good food. So we have got an army of home chefs now. And when I say home chefs, they're people like us who have left their corporate careers and pursued their passion of cooking. And they specialize in a particular kind of cuisine. We have 350 chefs in Delhi and Bangalore, and they do close to 75 different kind of cuisines. And when I say 75 different, they are authentic different cuisines. So that is what drove me. And I think the entire journey has evolved. What started off was as an aggregator model has evolved to something completely different now in 2 years.
So our podcast is called Unplanned Life. So clearly I would say that it has been quite unplanned for you, your life, right?
It has been. And I think I thoroughly enjoy that bit of chaos. As I said, it's important to be able to get out of your comfort zone.
Being spontaneous.
Getting
out of your comfort zone.
Getting out of your comfort zone. For me, the biggest challenge is if I stay in a job for too long, I get very bored, right? I start feeling I'm not contributing enough. And that gets me itchy feet. So I need to move on and I want to do something different. So that was the driver for me. When I left my job in Dubai, when I left Hong Kong, when I left Tokyo, I was probably at the best possible position and there was no reason for me to move.
So at every point in your life, you really wanted to get out of your comfort zone and try something new.
Completely.
So you're open to challenges, I could put it.
I'm absolutely open to challenges, and I love taking challenges. I love
You love taking challenges.
Absolutely.
I've known Juhi for many years now. As a wife, I'm talking, even if my husband, if Param suddenly said, okay, I'm doing this, moving here, moving there, how supportive was she and how difficult was it as well, at that point, because, secure, you have a good corporate life, a secure position, and that also COVID, anyway, people were struggling with different stuff. So for a wife, how difficult was it and how supportive was she?
It has been difficult for her, but I would say full marks in terms of being supportive because Juhi has been extremely supportive in all our moves. She had a career herself, and she pretty much put her career on the bits in terms of a back burner and said, "Okay, fine. You know what? I can probably start off this entire thing all over again once you're settled." And it never happened. So we moved from Dubai to Hong Kong, from Hong Kong to Shanghai, from Shanghai to Tokyo. She was working in Tokyo for good 6 to 7 years, and that's when when we decided to move back to India. That's when she decided to take a bit of a break, right? Spend time with the kids, and then she's gone back to her career again. But none of this would have been possible had it not been for us.
So you always had that support. I mean, of course,
Absolutely.
the trust was always there because, over the years, but then she was okay with you starting something fresh.
Completely. And it was more in terms of the bits, in terms of she's equally adventurous in terms of trying out new things, moving on to new places. One of the things which we have thoroughly enjoyed is being able to make friends throughout, right? And you make friends for a lifetime because people who were with us in Dubai or people who were with us in Tokyo, they're still extremely close to us and they're more like an extended family.
But Vishal, like when you were in Tokyo, when you were in Hong Kong, you've traveled. I mean, you've been in these places. Of course, you made friends. But at that point, it wasn't very common. Now, I mean, of course, we have social media, we have phones. Connectivity is a lot more. Communication is better. From which town you were in India? Like from a smaller place? Where were you? In fact, how would you, at that point, get in touch with your parents? How difficult was it then? Let's not talk about now. Today, moving in, settling, that's very easy. You have WhatsApp, you have FaceTime, you're in touch. How difficult was it back then?
It was a bit difficult because the only way of communication was probably telephones, right? And I moved out of India at a time when we did have mobiles. But I still do remember moving into Japan, and that was what, 2 decades ago, when the Japanese mobiles would not work outside, right? So you actually had to have 2 mobiles which you would carry with you. When you go into Japan, you're pretty much cut off from the world because your credit cards won't work, right? Your phones won't work, right? The own language was an issue, right? The other element was the fact that you're in a train, you don't know which station to get off on because they weren't numbered. Now they have started putting in English language and the numbers, but there was a bit of a struggle. But then it was all about understanding. And I don't think life comes in very easy anyway. It's all about embracing challenges. And one of the biggest learning which I've had, Ambika, is the fact that if you're embracing challenges, if you're taking new challenges, enjoy it. Don't complain about it. So one of the things which I've always done is when I've moved from one place to the other, I have never sat and whinged about the fact that why did I move?
So never regretted your decision?
Never. Because the minute you start regretting, there are 25 other reasons to regret. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You keep going back to the whole thing. It is pretty much, in the crudest possible way, cutting an umbilical cord and saying, okay, fine, I'm done with this chapter, move on to the next chapter, and let's see what we can do.
So I think being optimistic has played a very important role in your life. I think because you look at everything positively, right? If I've taken this decision, to theek hi hoga. I mean, I have to move along.
Absolutely. Optimistic and probably also being practical, right? Saying, okay, fine, I'm doing this for a reason. And as I said, at one point of time, I was the youngest general manager in the whole network. And I was only able to do that because I had been willing to move to different places and probably take on difficult jobs too.
So open to change as well.
Open to change. And that's the most important thing. If you want to get out of your comfort zone, you have to be open to change.
Okay, now coming to Be the Chef, it started with 3 people and you have over 45 people. What change, what shift, like you did mention, it's changed a bit. Tell us a little bit about it in terms of what are you trying when it comes to food. Of course, you're getting people together, you're connecting them. Tell us a little bit about the whole transition in the last couple of years with Be the Chef.
So the way it started off, we created an aggregator platform for home chefs. And the whole idea was to be able to give a platform to be able to promote themselves. If you look at the home chefs, they're extremely talented. They're very capable in terms of what they do. The challenges which they face is in being able to promote themselves, right? And probably be able to market themselves. The ROI would never justify in terms of the amount of money they are spending, in terms of being able to get any kind of marketing for them. So what we started doing was we became from an aggregator model of just being able to provide them an outlet to sell. We actually became their consultants. We help them in marketing. We help them in terms of their accounting processes. We help them in terms of delivery.
So overall.
Overall. So we said, you are good in cooking. Focus on cooking and innovate. we do the other admin stuff. So that freed up pretty much 45 to 50% of their time to be able to focus on cooking. And that's when they went into the bits in terms of the innovation mode. How do we do things differently? Food is all about innovation.
Yeah.
Food is all about creativity. And one of the things which I realized, I could never cook for myself, in terms of I did some cooking at one point of time in my
I have
life.
butter chicken and all.
Absolutely. Some element of it. Now I don't even go to the kitchen. But there is a lot which you can do with flavors, right? And how you can mix food together. How can you mix a Thai curry with a South Indian food? How do you do fusion in terms of the entire fusion element, where it need not be something which is it's something which need not sort of be completely revolutionary, but it's something which is different, and it suits your palate.
It leaves, yeah. Like, so in fact, I've tasted your golgappa, which has the Thai, instead of the pani puri, which we usually have the namak, the pani. So this has this Thai flavored water, which I thought, of course, it leaves that little after, and you keep thinking what it is. It makes you, yeah.
It's all about, food is an experience, but it's also how do you add to the entire experience of having a meal.
Okay, Vishal, now that you've told us about We the Chefs, now supposing I want to get in, I don't cook really well. But if I want to try, you know that. You don't have to be so niche, okay? Okay, suppose I start cooking really well and I want to get on the platform. If you can tell us, what would the next steps for me be?
So I think, one of the things which we do is we make our platform easy to sell and easy to buy. So it's a fairly easy way in terms of being able to enroll yourself as a chef. So you register yourself as a chef. What we normally make sure that we sort of emphasize on is the element that you have to have someone who's specializing in a particular kind of cuisine. The minute someone says, I do everything, they're eliminated from the entire list, because then we want people who are specialists in that, right? Then we do a bit of a tasting. So now we have a whole clientele, we send food to them and we get their feedback. And based on that, we would actually enroll you on our system. Then we start the bits in terms of helping you promote your products, help you in terms of pricing, because some people are not very aware in terms of how would they price. And we have a whole team of people who help in terms of the innovation element. They can actually tell you that, rather than doing this, you do this, right? So again, the bits in terms of the pani puris or the type of
so the little tweaking to make it a little
tweaking,
different,
absolutely. Yeah. How can you make it different? End of the day, in this day and age, it's all about how are you creating a differentiator, right? And the most important thing is that for me, food, as I said, was just not about eating and enjoying the food. It's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience. Absolutely.
And our chefs have some incredible stories to tell. And that is why our tagline is Taste the Story. So that is what we are talking about, is the bits in terms of there's a story behind every dish which you create.
So it's not just food, you also, curate parties, menus. So then how does it work? Like supposing I'm having a party, how do you decide who the chef is going to be? Or if I tell you, okay, I want Chinese, how does that work then? Where do the chefs come in then?
So for us, and again, I'm coming back to my corporate days, where I was with British Airways and then with Carlson Wagonly and with TUI, it was always about solutioning. It was always about being able to find a solution to a problem. When you talk about business travel, it was just not about issuing a ticket and booking a hotel. It was more about being able to find a travel solution. Similarly, over here, it's about solutioning with a client in terms of what is it that you're looking for. Why do you really want to go in for a Chinese? Do you want to change and do you want to do something different? Because everyone is doing Chinese. How can you actually be different? So now we are where we are coming in is we are becoming your advisors in terms of how to curate an event.
Okay.
How to actually make sure that you in your party don't get lost. You enjoy your own party, right? How many times have you enjoyed your own party?
Yeah, because you're running around from place to place.
Absolutely. You're completely stressed.
So you're giving all an overall
we are giving a one-stop solution to you to say that you want decor, you want lighting, you want music, you want food. We will curate the whole experience for you, rather than just talking about piecemeal and saying, I'm just going to be doing the food. You get the decor done from someone else. You get eggs done from somewhere else. So we are actually coming in as your one-stop shop, right? And in terms of being able to provide you a solution. This is a market which is growing at a CAGR of close to around 25% in India in the next 10 years. It's going to be close to $330 billion. the amount of baby showers, anniversaries, milestone anniversary, milestone birthdays, it's not funny. And I go back 20 years ago, right, when you were probably still in kindergarten. But it was more in terms of the fact that you would just have one wedding ceremony to go to. Now you have 5 days of wedding.
Weekends are
You have
hectic,
baby
yeah.
showers, right? So there is a reason to celebrate. And I think post COVID, it has become more.
People
I think
wanna
people
live-
want to
yeah.
enjoy a bit more than what they did before. So everything is a
Because
celebration.
COVID really stopped life. We were,
Absolutely.
we were living across each other at that point. We
Absolutely.
saw how it was. Life really stopped. So I think people want to enjoy. But now that you've taken a panga with me by saying I can't cook, and all my viewers know I can't cook really well, but there are a few things which I can cook. So now
I know you make a good
now
cup
I'm
of
gonna take
tea.
an examination. Okay, so now you better.
All right,
So,
okay.
okay.
You have always been a good as a teacher.
Yeah, so clearly now, okay, now Vishal, imagine you're a superhero with the power to make any ethical rule universal. Okay, what rule would you choose and why?
Wow. That's a
फंसाया
good
कि नहीं
one.
फंसाया? और
बिल्कुल,
बोलो
फंस गया,
बोलो
फंस
नहीं आती
गया.
कुकिंग मुझे.
One ethical rule which I would make, and I would, if I'm a superhero, one thing would be eliminate people who talk shit, right? So I think that is something which I would want to do is, make it a place where people are enjoying, right? People are having fun. So that would be my one thing to do is like, gone.
So that is, you would want to just
Absolutely. Don't like it.
like
Khatam.
yeah, okay. How do you balance again? I think this one, personal values with professional obligations when they conflict. Not just now, but over the years, the last year, throughout your career.
I think you need to, probably it's our upbringing, Ambika, in terms of our personal values, are fairly strong. So I don't think it ever contradicts with what we were doing professionally, right? It was always, fortunately in whichever company I've worked, have been very strong from an ethical point of view, right? In terms of what are we doing, how are we doing, processes. So that has actually helped me. Even in terms of creating my own business, right? It's been 2.5 years. And I think we have made sure that from a compliance point of view, from an ethical point of view, we are doing the right things.
So there's really no contradiction.
I know there would be at times, but it's more in terms of the values which sort of.
Okay, now that you've said that you've had this business for over 2.5 years, so would you rather be a successful businessman or have a successful business with little personal fulfillment, or a fulfilling personal life with a moderately successful business?
I think both of them are sort of interrelated. I think from my point of view, we're at a stage of life where the kids have grown up. Son is graduating this year, daughter graduates next year. So it's more in terms of, we have had a very fulfilling life in terms of whatever we have done till now. Thankfully, and I bless my stars that it was professionally also, it was fairly successful in whatever we did. Right now, it's all about being able to keep yourself engaged. I think this
With
is
the
a
kids not
great,
being there,
the kids
yeah.
not being there. There is, there's a bit in terms of, as Johi, my wife, she talks about the bits in terms of a happy nester rather than an empty nester. Yeah. So for us, it's also being able to engage yourself in something which gives you a purpose, right? Jobs are there for X number of years. After that, what do you do?
And also something you enjoy, the passion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're enjoying
driven
that.
by that, yeah.
I forget when it's a Sunday, when it's a Saturday. It's a 24/7 for me. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it because end of the day, you're actually being able to create something very different. You're actually creating something. You're engaging with people. You're engaging with very interesting people. You're giving employment to people. You're actually also looking at the bits in terms of sustainability, women empowerment, right? 90% of our chefs are women. They are in a bits in terms of being able to do something different and also become financially independent.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, you're really, I won't say ticking all the boxes, but in a lot of ways, you're trying to give back, I think.
And it's fulfilling,
yeah, it's
right?
fulfilling.
It's interesting. It's interesting when you create something.
But
I can't tell you the amount of joy you get, Ambika, when you were working with BA2E or CWT. They've established companies, right? Having X number of followers on LinkedIn or X number of people following you on social media was not a big thing. Being able to get to a stage where you're actually looking at the fact that you have got 10,000 followers on this thing, there are people who recognize your brand.
It's like a baby from the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
so
it's taking baby steps and
yeah.
getting to a stage where people recognize you, people sort of know about you. When you get calls from people to say, Can you actually do this for us? We have actually started curating loads of events for some of the premium clubs in Gurgaon. So all these are sense of achievement, which makes you extremely happy.
Yeah, of course. No, but since you said that empty nester, so Girvan, my older son will probably be going in September. I mean,
Absolutely.
is going in September. I'm
September.
still living in, I think, denial. So I'm already feeling the dhagda, but I still have one here. So, okay. So the next one, Vishal, do you believe success is more about hard work or luck?
Hard work. I'm a firm believer of the fact that there is no substitute to hard work. Right? Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts in life. And probably fortunately too.
Okay.
I don't think there's any substitute to hard work. Luck plays a role, but
so it's hard work for you.
It's been always hard work for
now,
me.
This is a tricky one. Since we are friends, would you speak up if a close friend was doing something you knew was wrong, even if it might damage your friendship?
Yes. I am very, very vocal about it, and blame it on my star sign, right? Being a Libran, even if I don't say anything, subtitles appear on my face. So,
sensitive also.
Very sensitive. And for me, it's very clear. If I can't get along, part ways. There's no point.
So it's black or it's
absolutely. It's pretty much black and white. There are no gray elements in a relationship with me.
Okay, looking back on your career, what's that one decision you made that you were very proud of because it aligned with your values, even if it wasn't the easiest choice at that point? It could be at any point in your career.
So I'll tell you, we were in Tokyo when the big earthquake happened, right? The tsunami was happening and the earthquake happened. I had to send the family away to Hong Kong. And my boss kept on telling me that you move out of Tokyo. And one of the decisions against all my bosses was the fact to stay back in Tokyo and be with the team. And I do remember one of my bosses actually saying that you wouldn't be a martyr by doing this, right? So please understand, for the team, it's home, right? You are still an alien. You need to be out, right? You're a foreigner, And I'm saying alien because in Japan, we used to have a thing known as alien registration card. So all expats were called aliens. So for me, it was a very hard decision. Call it probably being in Asia for too long, loss of face. I would not have been able to go out of Japan and come back when things were fine. Yeah. I wanted to be a part of the team and stood by the team. And even now, my team still reminds me of the fact that, I stayed with them when every other expat manager 90% of them had moved out, right? It was difficult. It was tough because we were having aftershocks for good 1 month post the big earthquake, but it was very, very fulfilling. And the benefit of hindsight, I would still have done that again, right? I would have never gone back on that decision.
Well, I think that's really answered. You've done pretty well in the exam. Let me be honest.
Brilliant. Thanks. I never did very well in exams, though.
No, but honestly, I think, because I've just asked you, going back then, it clearly, did make an impact. Okay, now moving on to We the Chefs. A home chef on your platform is found to be using substandard ingredients. What would you do? Do you remove immediately or
straight away?
No
straight
warning?
Away. Nothing at all. One of the things which we firmly believe in is the bits in terms of there are no compromises on quality, right? Taste can go haywire, but no compromises in terms of quality. So anyone found using any substandard unethical stuff, they're out.
So again, the next one is a rival food aggregator platform offers to poach one of your top performing home chefs with a lucrative offer. How would you respond?
One of the things which I've learned, Ambika, and this always gets a smile on my face, is the fact that in British Airways, TUI, CWT, we had a standard line to say we welcome competition, right? It's all about survival of the fittest. And I know the way we treat our chefs, the way we engage with them, the way we have our payment terms and conditions with them, 95% of them will stay with us and not move anywhere else. And even if they do, they would come back.
Okay, so you have that much, they will come back. Okay.
2.5 years of a lot of hard work.
2.5. No, but clearly, again, I just want to go back because I know you're very fond of traveling. Many times I've taken your itineraries, even when you were at you have traveled the world. When it comes to travel and food, what are the things you've really picked up during one of your travels? Would you want to share something with us?
Again, Ambika, it's all about, for me, food is always about culture. it's always about being able to connect with people. And and that is something which is core to our business too. The more you travel, the more you experience, the more you are a bit more, open-minded in terms of being able to try out things. Fortunately for us, and Juhi and the kids, they are very adventurous when it comes to food.
So it works for all of you.
It works brilliantly for all of us. Funnily enough, when they are back home, they don't want to try out anything different, right? They will stick to their normal stuff. But the minute they land in a different country, they're different animals, right? They want to try out every possible thing which is there, local cuisines. And the funny element is that you would find so much of similarity between food all across the world. It's funny. They're called different things, but they're probably being served in a different way. But end of the day, it's pretty similar to what you eat. If you look at kheer, right? Kheer is pretty much eaten all across the world, right?
Because
With
the
different
ingredients
names.
it's
Ingredients
rice
are the
and
same.
milk.
Rice
Yeah.
and milk, right? Whether it's China, whether it's Japan, whether it's Australia, whether it's UK, whether
Or
it's
maybe
US.
the grain changes. in
Absolutely.
some places, yeah.
But most of the places, the grain also remains the same. It's the kind of rice which is a bit different.
they're serving
But
it,
rice
yeah,
pudding, this thing, whatever, the
Or
way of
baking it,
preparation is
yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But end of the day, the ingredients are the same and taste is pretty similar.
Yeah, it's once you start realizing that. But Vishal, we're talking about kids. I mean, again, Diya, Devanshu, I've known them. When it comes to parenting, as a father, you've taken them around. I mean, if they are global citizens, I know they've grown up in different countries. How different are the values what you were taught then and out of what you learned as a child that you have or you want them to imbibe?
When we were growing up, and I really can't complain because my parents were fairly liberal in terms of what we did, but there was always a bit in terms of this is good and this is wrong, right? There was never an element of being able to let your child say, okay, fine, decide for yourself,
Take that decision.
right? And when I look at in terms of when I was growing up, I do remember I got into MBBS, right? I qualified that. And my father just asked me one question: are you the kind of person who would study for 10 years? And I said, probably not. And I dropped. But as a child, I only wanted to become a doctor. The only thing, and probably I don't know whether that question was a right question or a wrong question. Am I repenting about it? Probably not. And I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. But it was more in terms of, I think he was very clear that I should become a doctor.
Or he probably knew his child.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 10 saal nahi kar payega. Why is he doing this, right? Or why is he struggling and why, and knowing him very well. It's like Diya.
Yeah.
Diya at one point of time wanted to become a doctor. And suddenly she said, but I can't study for 10 years.
That's like me. I wanted to be a surgeon. And again, I didn't want to study, but then the whole blood thing, I said, well, I can't see blood. But obviously when you're so I think, sometimes you want to do
Unless you're
something.
colorblind and you don't see the blood.
Very funny. Thanks. Or funny. If I come up with my next exam. No, but honestly, sometimes you don't plan things. But you're saying that you let the kids take their decisions. You tell them that, okay, try it out yourself.
One was we sort of let them decide some elements for themselves, right? And I'm not talking about color of the shirt. It's more in terms of deciding what you really want to do.
In life.
But also, the most important thing which you realize now, Ambika, is that our kids are a lot more aware than what we were, right? The exposure, the education system, the way they study in the class, the bits in terms of, you have these open book exams, which I still haven't been able to understand, right?
Kya mushkil kya?
Isme mushkil kya? And then Devanshu, I was telling Devanshu, how easy is an open book exam? He said it's not, because in that 3 hours, you have to know where the answer is, right? So if you haven't read the book, you can't answer it.
Yeah.
So, but I think things have changed. The way they think, the way they prepare for their exams, their creativity is at a different level from ours. So the kids...
And we learn from them.
Absolutely.
Like, I can't do a thing when it comes, like my younger, Jay, he's 13. He's teaching me, like I ask him something, he's like, oh my God, Mama, you can't even do this. Like morning at a Teams meeting, I was like, I want to open it not on my phone, on my laptop. So how do I do it? I don't have the app. He's like, no, you don't need the app. So, he was laughing.
Absolutely.
But you learn. And then you say, okay, chalo, they'll only do it. Like certain things they would leave to us when we were kids. I think we're also learning from them.
Absolutely. And there is no age to stop learning, right? And I get inspired by a mom who's 85 and she's still willing to learn. Right. She would still get after my life in terms of telling me something about the Google app which is not working and how do I get this to do and how do I do Google Pay. And that keenness or inquisitiveness to learn, and probably it has passed on from her to us, is the fact that, I personally feel, absolutely. And you learn from everyone, as you rightly said. In the office, you learn from your colleagues. One of the leadership lessons which I learned fairly early on was that as a leader, you don't need to know everything, right? You can pick up things, let your team do it. They are there, right? And rely on the team to be able to do things for the company, because they're equally committed. It's not you're the only one who's committed.
It's
in
just
terms
that you
of
have to
doing
be
it.
willing to learn.
Absolutely.
मन से करना चाहिए कि हाँ मुझे सीखना है. If you half the battle is won there.
Mindset.
Yeah, mindset. If you say I know everything, then you then
Absolutely.
yeah.
जब तक आप सोच रहे हो कि मुझे कुछ सीखना है, you get into that learning mode, you can learn. If you don't want to learn, you will never learn.
Okay, coming back to unplanned life, do you think you would be a good doctor if you had become a doctor? 10 साल तो छोड़ो. What if it was 25 years? Do you think you would make a good doctor?
Probably yes.
And what field would you go into?
Probably more of a pediatrician, right? I'm very patient with kids, right? Not my own though. If you ask my kids, they would say not with us. I don't know whose
That's
kids.
for every set of parents.
But I'm a very good teacher. But if you're willing to learn. If you're willing to learn, I'm very patient in terms of being able to sit down and make you understand things. A few of my colleagues still say that we did an MBA 2.0 with you in the 2 years of working with you. So I think it's all about.
Professor, you would be probably teaching medicine.
I won't have. I would have been
then it would be a pediatrician.
No, more in terms of I would have been a pediatrician. Teacher, I would have been a very bad teacher. I'm very moody.
Okay,
in
now
certain
that I've
aspects.
got you answering some questions, I'm going to ask you, what's the biggest kitchen disaster you have ever had? Which could also be during COVID when you were making us taste your butter chicken and all. You could be honest about this.
Was that a disaster?
No, the chicken was good. What happened in the kitchen that I want to know? We don't know, na? Andar ki baat.
So I think, Juhi was very clear about the fact that if you want to go into the kitchen, you need to get a different set of helpers coming in and help you. The normal helpers are not going to help you because I will have a real challenge. You cook for 1 day, the rest of the 6 days, the maid would go away.
Yeah.
So I think that was very clear that you probably give me the instructions, right? Let me know what needs to be done. And I will give them the instructions rather than you giving them instructions.
So the disaster Juhi knows. You
Yes,
don't know.
disaster Juhi knows, not me.
Okay,
you probably need to ask her.
So you've never faced or you don't know what's happened. Okay, if you could have any superpower in the kitchen, what would it be?
Just think of a dish and it gets made.
Hi, maza aa jata na.
Bilkul, this is what I want to eat now. Get it.
We used to have that Aladdin ka lamp.
Chirag.
What was a chirag? Okay, yeah. Okay, what's the weirdest ingredient you've ever worked with? Because you've even if you wouldn't, I'm sure you cooked when you were abroad as well. But anything weird, an ingredient which any story?
So anything weird was, I was. The funny bit was I was trying to make galati kebab ke masales. Right, and there are something like
koot ke proper.
There's something like 80 or 60 things, 60 different things which we use. So I went around getting this patthar ke phool. So I thought patthar ke phool are like, there'll be 1 or 2 flowers, heavy thing. So I ordered 2 kilos of patthar ke phool. And you wouldn't imagine if you look at, if you actually look at
patthar ke phool?
I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's like light. And I got 7 packets in that 2 kilos. And, and I was, I think, distributing patthar ke phool to everyone for the next probably 6 months. And you use only little bit of it.
Because probably masala is strong.
Very strong. So it's just a little bit of, like a 1/10 of a petal of a flower.
So you think that's a weird ingredient, or you probably didn't know
But
about
then when you travel, Ambika, there are some real weird food which people eat. There was something in Taiwan which I used to call it stinking tofu, right? Really bad. It was all fermented and stuff like that. Pathetic smelling, but a delicacy. And I still can't understand why would people eat that.
So even the monkey brain, there's a lot across,
Snake
globally,
soup.
people have their,
So I've tried out snake soup though. I've tried out rabbit, frog legs, which are very good actually. So
they're all delicacies, of course.
Yes.
It's again about your own taste buds.
Frog leg I liked, crocodile I liked. The thing which I could not eat in Philippines, I forget the name, but it's a bit weird though. When the egg hatches, right? When the chicken is just about out, popping its head, they put it in hot water.
Oh wow! It's
Right?
like
And then you're supposed to eat that. I was challenged by my team that if they meet the target, I would have to eat that. Thankfully, they didn't that year, so I escaped. But that was something which I found extremely weird and a bit revolting.
Okay, now Vishal, Aladdin ka chirag to aa gaya. Okay, if you could create, since I love desserts, if you could create an ice cream flavor, what would that be? Something different out of the box, never been heard of.
Bloody hell, I have no idea because For me, a good ice cream is a chocolate ice cream.
Typical-
You just make it
typical
really nice.
chocolate or vanilla type boy.
Not vanilla, chocolate ice cream.
boring.
You know, so you this is what I would love to have, a chocolate ice cream.
So you wouldn't want to create anything.
That's it. I would just want to sort of make the chocolate ice cream so good that people don't look for anything apart from the chocolate ice cream.
So that means none of your chefs are trying a new ice cream. Okay, what's the best food and wine pairing you've ever done?
So we actually did an event with one of the local wine companies over here, which I thought was really good. That was one which we did recently. But the other one which we thoroughly enjoyed, which was before my days of getting into We the Chefs, was sake pairing with Indian food in Tokyo, right? And we actually did the entire thing of Indian food with sake pairing, and that was probably phenomenal.
Also an unusual pairing.
Very unusual pairing, and also you got to realize how sake is made. Secondly, sake is not normally having in shot glasses and small glasses.
Yeah.
So the guy said to enjoy sake, and he owned the brewery, which he was giving us a whole lesson on the sake. You have to have it in proper wine goblets, so that you allow the sake to breathe, pretty much like your wines.
Like wine, yeah. Keep it
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was something which was very
Okay,
different.
that's something unheard. I haven't heard of that.
So that was pretty good. Sake with Indian thing,
Sake with Indian.
And actually, we must do that as an event in
So
We
that's
the
what you're
Chefs.
thinking. See? Okay. Now, if you could have a never-ending supply of any ingredient, what could that be?
Coffee.
Don't say ghee. Okay, sugar. Coffee.
Good coffee. I can, you can wake me up at 2:00 and say black coffee. I would have it,
And
I'd go back to sleep. Yes. So I don't know. This whole thing of staying awake after having coffee doesn't work for me. I have coffee and I can go and sleep.
Okay, I don't drink coffee, but I've heard of people saying कि अगर हम coffee पीते हैं, चाय पीते, we can't.
When people say कि मैं 12 बजे के बाद coffee नहीं पीता हूँ, मैं 2
because I
बजे के
can't
बाद.
sleep, yeah.
So I just look at them strangely and say
So
I
it's
can have
coffee for
coffee.
you.
And
It's clearly your
absolutely.
favorite ingredient. What's the most overrated fruit trend in your opinion?
Fruit trend.
Trend.
Food trend.
सबसे overrated. What do you feel like आजकल? There are a lot of things which are.
Loads. I think
I think
end
the
of the day,
phases.
they're all phases. And then
Biscoff cake आया था, then cheese
And-
platters. It's just
they're just phases of everything.
But anything
right?
you feel is overrated and didn't really need, or you don't want to get into, you don't want to.
I would probably say one of the things which is sort of don't know. See, some of the curries and all I think are overrated. They're great, but then again that's a wrong way. I don't know. I seriously,
Okay, since
failed
we
in
are
that question.
Since
Sorry.
we are talking, you failed in that one. चलिए
Yeah.
एक तो बता.
एक दो
100% तो नहीं मिल सकते.
Absolutely.
Clearly,
Because like coffee
if you
का
become
यार
a
ना-
doctor शायद I would say कि मिल जाता. But tell me, now that we are talking about, we're talking about food choices. What next for We the Chef? What do you have in plan? In your head, like where are you looking at going?
So what is the bits in terms of we want to become an expert in terms of what we do, right? One is the entire curation and innovation. So what we have also done is we have invested in a facilitation center, right, which is 3,000 square feet, and it's a kitchen setup where we work with our chefs in terms of being able to innovate and come up with different products, right? So different combinations, different flavors. How do two chefs work together? So that is something which we are working on, and that is where we want to come in as an expert to say, they are the masters when it comes to curation and being able to curate something completely different, absolutely, and constantly innovate. Because again, when we talk about our own career and we say that we have to move out of our comfort zone, so you have to move out of your comfort zone of making
create
only
something
butter
else.
chicken.
Yeah.
Right, you have to do something else. You have to create
How to
something
make it
else.
more, yeah.
Absolutely, how to make it more interesting,
And you see that with the fusion restaurants. You see
And most
that
of
people are
them-
willing to try things. Like even when so many multinational pizza brands came in, they did, try the different kinds of chicken. They went on a tandoori chicken, which were unheard of. But people do have that kind of palate. I know you said you don't have.
I think one of the things which I think is sort of a food which I hate and I think is unnecessarily highly rated are pineapples in pizzas. I just hate
Hawaiian
it.
pizza.
Hawaiian pizzas.
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
something which I hate.
Okay, so you
And-
got that one mark.
Yes,
Nearly
yeah,
forgot
I just
that.
sort of, retest.
Late reactions, but okay, you make that. So the creative producer of our podcast loves it. So I'm going to be judging Vikram now because I remember him telling me I love it so much.
As long as he doesn't messes up the entire video. If he does, I love
As far as he
pineapples on pages.
As far as he makes us look good, yeah. True.
Absolutely.
Vishal, in the beginning, you did say you have no regrets, which is really, really good. And, but anything when you look back, if you could change, whether it's in your career, whether it's today in Be the Chef, any decisions, or any message you would like to give our viewers. Sometimes they're planning things. They say Dr. Banna tha, but didn't get into the college. Or you wanted to do engineering, didn't make it to your, whatever. So many people out there, life doesn't go plan. It doesn't have to be planned. A message you would like to give or something you would share from your story, which you think might inspire so many people who feel stuck out there.
The most important thing, again, and I would probably reiterate the fact is getting out of your comfort zone, right? Trying out challenges. At times, we don't realize what our potential is till the time you challenge yourself. You won't know. You won't know till the time you have tried it out yourself. And this is something which I keep on telling everyone who works for me is the fact that you have to try it out. What is the worst which is going to happen? You fail. But then you fail early, you fail quickly, and you learn quickly.
You get up every time.
Right? You get up. And there's always a lesson in terms of whether you have failed or you have succeeded. And I think that is the real fair element. Most important is being true to yourself. That for me is the most important element. As long as you're true to yourself, you would know whether you have challenged yourself or not. And especially when it comes to sales, especially when it comes to doing something different, I'm a firm believer of the fact that if you have left no stone unturned, the chances of your getting it done is 99%. The minute you start making a proper list and saying, I didn't do this and I didn't do this and I didn't do this.
Then you're thinking.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Then you have actually reduced your chances by 50% anyway.
And I think what you said about failure, I also look at life that way, that failure is actually teaching you a lesson.
Absolutely.
It's not a mistake. It's how you look at it again. Your nazariya nahi kehte, just a mindset, right? So if you look at it that, okay, I've learned and move on, I think that's a very important message.
That is the most important thing. You have to sort of learn lessons and be proud of it. We're all human. As they say, to err is human, right? So we make mistakes. And there's nothing about being shy and making mistakes.
And who would have thought that somebody who wanted to be a doctor and then did business, and of course, for 28 years, good career, and today you're creating good food for us. Absolutely. Because I'm not a good cook, you have to ask my husband that, okay?
And if everyone cooks very good food, then we're out of business.
Yeah, so you clearly do want to put it out there. Absolutely, we need people like you. You need how mean is that? But Vishal, it's really been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast and sharing your journey with us, which is really inspirational.
Thank you very much, Ambika. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much. Great to be here.